As artificial intelligence has grown and adapted, many of us have grown weary of its existence entirely. But there was a time when robots were just beginning to resemble humans, and I mean physically. See, the idea of a robot having the ability to convey human thought may be scary, but the idea of a robot that resembles a human yet cannot imitate human nature leads to scarier implications. This idea was once at the forefront of robotic engineering, and perhaps surprisingly, this frontier being explored opened many doors for research into the human mind. Now, this story should begin in the early 70s when Masahiro Mori published his theory on the Uncanny Valley. Mori is mostly known for his work in robotics and as a professor of engineering. He began to establish the theory as robots started to become more human like in production. He noticed that there is a drop in our reaction to these robots as they become less distinguishable from humans. And now I'd like to talk about another pioneer in robotics whose designs really emphasized Mori's theory of the uncanny valley. Hiroshi Ishiguro is a renowned Japanese robotics professor at Osaka University. He's known for his work in android development, developing extremely lifelike humanoid robots. His research focuses on developing robots that can interact with humans in in various social settings, and this has led to lots of good data in support of Mori's theory. Now, let's look at some examples that were originally thought to fit into the valley or around it to get an overview of kind of how it was originally thought to function. And we'll start with industrial robots, which really help showcase the full spectrum of the theory of the valley by giving us an example of a robot that is significantly less human like and really has no noticeable effects on our reaction to it. And so, when comparing this to humanoid robots, these androids, it really emphasizes the effects that they do have on us. And next, we'll talk about the bunraku puppets, which are a traditional form of Japanese puppet theater that originated in the 17th century. They're highly detailed and intricate. They're around 1 meter, and they were thought to fit into the valley due to their, distinct human-like appearance. And the last example here is the prosthetic hand, or really any prosthetic. Uh, but on the original chart, it has prosthetic hand. Now, this is a great example of the uncanny valley effect because they resemble human hands in this case very closely while having noticeable differences. And it's a great case for how physicality plays a role. But why does the uncanny valley exist? There are many possible explanations for why the valley may have become a trait in humans. I believe that more research is needed to come to a precise conclusion on my answer, so my thesis is not complete. But why am I interested in studying the valley, anyways? I am a political science and sociology student. My affinity for history, psychology, secularism, and research in general has led me to want to understand the evolution of mankind and human thought. The Uncanny Valley has fascinated me ever since watching Michael Collins, more widely known here on YouTube as Vsauce, cover the topic many years ago. Uh, to this day, his videos are extremely intriguing, but theories about the origins of the Uncanny Valley still tend to hit a lot of subjects I am interested in, from human psychology to evolution to Native American history, as we'll see. As my interests have grown, I've come to know that this theory is not just an explanation for scary or creepy things, but possibly the effect of something spectacular in human evolution. And I've been eager to do personal research, so let's get into some of that research. We'll start with evolution, mating, and offspring survival. The uncanny valley phenomenon could be viewed through an evolutionary lens, particularly concerning mating and reproduction. When encountering entities that are close to human appearance but not quite right, like humanoid robots or computer generated characters, our brains may interpret them as potential mates, with genetic issues triggering aversion or discomfort. Humans' aversion to entities in the uncanny valley can also be explained by pathogen avoidance, an evolutionary mechanism that helps us avoid potential sources of disease or infection. Our brains are wired to detect signs of illness or abnormality in others, as interacting with sick individuals increases the risk of contagion and harm. Traits exhibited by entities in the uncanny valley, such as unnatural facial expressions or stiff movements, may trigger our sickness aversion response. Additionally, the aversion could stem from danger avoidance, as dead bodies were historically considered indications of potential danger, leading individuals to avoid fresh corpses as a survival strategy. Now, the uncanny valley could be explained through conflict within the human brain. The first example I'd like to bring up is mortality salience, which is essentially heightened awareness and concern over one's own mortality and subsequent death. Uh, and it is theorized that looking at these humanoid entities, these things that fall into the valley, uh, gives conflict in the brain and, sort of heightens this sense and increases that awareness because these entities resemble humans but do not share the same mortality that humans have. And another example is the Sorites paradox, which could help explain the brain's issue with the characteristics found in the valley. So what this is it's this heap of sand we've got here, and you remove one grain from the heap, and you repeat the process, removing one grain at a time until there's just one left. But the issue is, where do we draw the line? When is it not a heap anymore? And with the case for the uncanny valley, we have the steep drop off because it's the line is blurred. We are not sure, when something necessarily stops being human, and so having trouble with drawing that line the same way we would have trouble drawing the line in the sand, provides conflict that you know heightens the uneasiness that we feel. And lastly, I'd like to point out that the Sorites paradox provides a great outline for cognitive dissonance, which is likely a huge role player in the uncanny valley effect. So, lastly, I'd like to discuss potential outside threats to humans that could be uh, could be linked to the origin of the uncanny valley. And the examples are here on screen. And we'll start with the Neanderthal. So, Neanderthal lived close to humans, and they do have human characteristics and looks that could definitely fall into uncanny territory. Obviously, they're not exactly human. Uh, and if they were an issue that we dealt with, if they were attacking us, uh, and that was during our early cognitive development, uh, that could make it a likely origin of the valley. But while there were disputes between us and them, it's extremely likely that humans and Neanderthal bred, which for this theory to work, that should not be the case. Uh, Now, we'll move on to our Native American legends. And when discussing Native American legends, there obviously isn't going to be as much evidence as the other theories. And many accounts that are vastly studied and are academic are usually muddled down thanks to European input or influence. But despite this, the evidence available could shed light on a potential origin story. So we'll start with the Wendigo. So the Wendigo is a creature from Algonquin folklore, primarily found in the legends of the Ojibwe, the Cree, and other indigenous peoples of North America and typically Canada. It's often described as a spirit or monstrous creature associated with cannibalism, the winter, and hunger. It is commonly depicted as a tall, emaciated figure with glowing eyes and long claws. The most common belief is that Wendigo originates from humans who have resorted to cannibalism in desperate situations, such as during severe famine, harsh winter, or any extreme conditions where food might be scarce. And this notion typically enforces the taboo that natives had of eating human flesh. Uh, and so we'll move on to the Skinwalker. The Skinwalker is a figure from Navajo folklore, known for its shape shifting abilities and malevolent nature. Believed to be an individual who gained dark magic through forbidden means, which they use their powers for harm, such as causing illness or spreading curses. They are most active at night and are associated with stealth. Uh, and typically, you will see depictions of them trying to imitate, something maybe close to you or recognizable to you. Uh, Now, when looking at these beings, you'll notice that they not only directly come from a human in both cases, but uh, they still resemble humanoids in most accounts, and some, if not many, most of their traits, of course, deviate from the norm. And if these were, widespread through various different cultures that weren't connected, and this could possibly be, something that has some sort of influence on the cognitive development of humans. But obviously, there is not enough evidence to really constitute putting much merit into this theory here. And of course, with the Neanderthal theory kind of being washed, this last point does not hold as much merit, of course, as the first points. So, what exactly could a researcher make of all that? While there's a lot of interesting evidence, there's not enough to constitute a reasonable scholar to make a decision just yet. Therefore, I am not comfortable making my final inference. From what I have currently researched, if I had to put my chips in right now, I believe the limits of our brains suggest the most evidence for why the uncanny valley may exist. I believe that more research involving the threats to humanhood argument specifically should be completed, and the insight of more historians would be very helpful to that side of the argument. This topic likely won't be solved anytime soon, but it's still important in understanding the study of both the human brain and the human experience. If you plan to begin research into this subject, you should note that the issue of the origin is far more theoretical than ideas of stopping designs from falling into the valley. Essentially, the important part of the issue in what I've been researching has nothing to do with the origin of the Uncanny Valley, but more so on how to avoid it when designing humanoid creations. A discussion of the most popular sources makes one believe that finding the origin of the Uncanny Valley is certainly not something that piques the interest of many academic spaces. Nevertheless, I find this overlooked topic to be intriguing. Wherever the origin, the Uncanny Valley is an important aspect of what it means to be human, and that's why I thought it was important to share with you.